She stood alone at the defendant's table, wedding ring still on. Her husband? Missing. Her lawyer? Never showed. The judge sighed. The courtroom whispered. Then heels clicked. A stranger walked in, locked eyes with her, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "I'm here for her." No one knew who he was. Not her. Not the court. But what he revealed next flipped the entire case upside down and exposed a secret her husband never thought would surface. By the end of the hearing, she wasn't just offended, she was avenged. Some betrayals don't scream, they echo. The chair beside her was still empty. Anna didn't glance at it, didn't move, didn't blink. The ring on her finger was worn, too warm, like it remembered a hand that used to hold it. She sat straight, spine like wire, though the courtroom air sagged with waiting. Her lawyer should have arrived 10 minutes ago. The judge was whispering with the clerk. A bead of sweat rolled down the bailiff's neck. No one looked at her directly, but she could feel the heat of their sidelong eyes. She didn't shift. She didn't breathe hard. She didn't flinch when the woman in the second row clicked her pen for the third time. She remembered the sound of a spoon against china. Morning light. A laugh that wasn't hers. Her husband had always stirred his tea, like it was a habit he couldn't break, even when he wasn't drinking it. That sound had once meant love. Then it meant lying. The gavel hadn't fallen yet, not quite. The judge's fingers hovered, indecisive. Anna kept her eyes forward, as if focus might summon something. Or someone. And then the door creaked. Not flung open, not slammed, just creaked. Like a confession pried from a locked drawer. Footsteps, polished shoes on old marble. Slow, deliberate. The kind of walk that knew it was being watched. A man entered. Tall, jacket sharp, collar clean, face unreadable. The kind of face that might have been kind in another life, but here, now, was carved from shadow. He didn't look at Anna, not yet. He went straight to the center of the room and spoke before the judge could raise his brow. "I'm representing Mrs. Voss." Not Ms., not Anna. Mrs. like the ring still counted. Like the absence beside her meant nothing. Every eye shifted, including hers. He didn't wear a wedding band. But there was a pale line where one had been. The judge blinked. "This wasn't filed." The man nodded. "I filed electronically this morning, with due cause." Anna's mouth parted, but no sound emerged. Not yes, not no. Not who are you. She didn't know his name, but something inside her, a string she thought had snapped, pulled taut. Recognition without knowing. Grief without reason. The judge conferred quietly. Approved, too easily. Anna wondered if he'd been warned. Or bought. Or both. She turned to the man as he finally took the seat beside her. His eyes were dark, not from color, but from distance. He didn't smile, just handed her a folded paper napkin. No explanation, no words. On it, a red lipstick kiss, smudged. Faint, familiar. She hadn't worn that color since her wedding night. It was hers. "You knew him," she said, finally, quietly, like trying not to wake something sleeping in her chest. The man nodded. "Once." "What do you want?" But he didn't answer. Some truths rot in silence before they surface. The trial resumed. The plaintiff's side spoke of contracts, of assets, of timelines and signatures. She heard nothing. Not really. Just static behind her eyes. Her husband was not in the room, but he had authored every line. Still, her new lawyer asked no questions, took no notes. Just sat with his hands folded, fingertips touching as if in prayer. Or calculation. Memory flickered again. The echo of her husband's voice. "If I'm ever gone, don't trust the quiet ones." The quiet one was beside her now, narrator aside. But the napkin wasn't the only thing he brought with him. Anna turned slightly, stealing a glance at the man's wrist. A scar, half moon and pale, peeked out from under his cuff. She knew that scar, or rather she knew what made it. That sharp corner on the balcony rail. The night a guest had fallen. The night no one was supposed to remember. He pushed you. She whispered. And this time the words came out raw. The man didn't nod. Didn't confirm, but his throat worked once. A swallow like swallowing back history. He finally spoke, voice low. He recorded everything, even things that weren't his to keep. Her fingers curled. Her wedding ring felt heavier. He slid a flash drive into her palm. Cold, small, too light to carry what it must. A copy, he said. The original's gone. She didn't ask what was on it. Didn't have to. Outside, thunder rolled, summer thunder, distant and slow. The courtroom lights flickered once, then steadied. No one noticed. But she did. The woman with the pen clicked. Again, the judge exhaled too loudly. The air conditioner rattled. Everything was on edge. Everything knew something had shifted, narrator aside. He said he was here for her. But no one asked what he really wanted. Cross-examination began. Her husband's business partner took the stand. Smug, polished, lies worn like cologne. He spoke of numbers. Anna didn't look at him. She looked at her lawyer. You knew this would happen, she said under her breath. He didn't deny it. You planned this. Still silence. Then I waited too long the first time. An echo again. The flash drive in her hand pulsed like a second. Like the truth wanted out. She remembered the night her husband disappeared. The wine bottle half full. The candle burned to wax puddle. The door slightly ajar. Her name not spoken, but her secrets known. I didn't kill him, she said suddenly. Not to him, not to anyone. Just out. But the courtroom stopped anyway. She bit her tongue. The man beside her tilted his head. I didn't say you did. But his voice said, someone might. And then she understood. He wasn't here to defend her. He was here to see what she'd do with what she now knew. A test, or worse, an invitation. The trial recessed. Everyone rose. The judge left. The whispers started again. Anna stayed seated. He stood. I have one question, she said without looking up. Why me? He paused. You looked like someone who wouldn't lie to herself forever. Emotional reversal. She wanted to feel strong. Instead, she felt seen, undressed, like he'd reached into the hollow places and pulled the grief out with bare hands. Outside the window, a single red leaf fluttered across the sill. Too early for autumn. Symbolic object. She looked down again at the napkin. The lipstick print was fading. She traced it once with her finger, smearing it further. What was her name? She asked. His breath hitched. The first time he faltered. Ava. Her sister's name. A flash. Her wedding day. Ava's laugh behind her veil. A kiss on her cheek. And later, Ava crying in the garden. No one ever told her why. I didn't know, Anna said. But even as she said it, she wasn't sure it was true. Didn't say goodbye. Just walked out. Slow again, controlled. As if he feared what running would do. Call to action. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. Anna looked around the courtroom, empty now. Except for the chair, the one he had just left. Still warm, she picked up the flash drive, slipped it into her purse, and sat there alone, ring on finger, truth in bag. Heart in throat. Then just before the lights clicked off for the night, she reached across the empty chair and gently straightened the napkin, like she was setting a place for a ghost. When someone shows you who they are, don't just look. Remember. The bruise under her collarbone was fading, turning that ugly yellow pink like spoiled fruit. It didn't hurt anymore, not really. Not unless her little boy asked, why did Daddy yell like that? And then it felt like fire. She told him it was a grown-up problem. He nodded too quickly. He was 6. He shouldn't know how to nod like that. The morning light came in soft through the linen curtains. The kitchen was quiet. Even the kettle refused to whistle. Anna poured water anyway, watched the steam rise in ghost-thin spirals. Her mug-white porcelain with a single chipped corner rested on the countertop like it belonged to someone else. She held it in both hands to stop the tremble. There was a note beside the toaster, not an apology. Just had to go early. Don't forget to pick up my dry cleaning. A name scribbled at the bottom like an afterthought. No love, no sorry. Just the name he wore like a weapon. She left the note untouched, like it might bite. The voicemail icon blinked on her. Phone, 4 missed calls. 1 voicemail. All from him, but she didn't press play. Not yet. She turned toward the living room. The silence stretched like it was testing her. Toys scattered neatly along the carpet. 1 tiny sock on the coffee table. A picture frame slightly tilted on the vase on the wall. Their wedding photo. His arm around her waist. Her smile unsure, even then. But the photo hid something worse. She walked to the hallway. Opened the 3rd drawer of the console table. Still locked. Same as yesterday. Same as always. She didn't know what was inside. But she knew enough not to force it. Once, she asked. Once, he said. Don't ever touch that drawer, unless you want to ruin everything. Her hand hovered now, like a memory trying to claw. It's way back. She heard his voice in her head, low and cold. No one else would put up with you. 3 days before court, and she still hadn't packed. Narrator aside, it's not that she didn't know what was coming. It's that she remembered too well what already had. She turned on the faucet, watched water spill over her hands. She'd always loved this part of mornings, the ritual of nothing. But now even the soap felt sharp. Like she couldn't scrub him out fast enough. Down the hall, her son stirred. She dried her hands, walked gently into his room. He sat up blinking, hair wild, sheets tangled like he'd been fighting something in his dreams. Hey mama, hey baby. Is daddy gone? She nodded. He exhaled. Too much relief for someone so small. Did you have another bad dream? He shook his head. Then, after a pause, whispered, I dreamed the walls were talking. They said to hide. She didn't answer. Just brushed his curls back and kissed his forehead. The locket around her neck felt heavier today. Inside was no picture. She'd taken it out months ago. But she still wore it. Habit, hope, maybe both. She dressed him in silence. Made his toast without burning it this time. Sent him off to school with a smile too wide. And when the door shut behind him, she played the voicemail. Static, then his voice, muffled, rushed. Don't come to the office. Just stay home. If anyone calls, you don't know anything, all right? I'll handle it. I told them you weren't involved. Don't make me look like a liar, Anna. Then silence, then another voice in the background. Not his. A woman. Laughing. The message cut off. Narrator aside. She didn't know her husband left. It on by accident. Or if he wanted her to hear it. Her hands went cold. She stared at the phone like it had spoken a curse. The drawer. She walked back to it. Faster this time. Heart in throat. Pulled. Still locked. But now she remembered the second key. Taped behind the basement light switch. She didn't hesitate. The key fit like it'd been waiting. Inside. A single envelope. Thick. Heavy. She opened it with trembling. Fingers. Inside. Bank statements. A passport not hers. Foreign currency. A plane ticket one way, in his name. Dated tomorrow. And a photograph. Him. And Eva. Her sister. Not from years ago. From last week. Her mouth went dry. The locket at her neck. Burned. He'd said Eva was unstable. Said she lied. Savan Anna needed to cut her off, for the good of their son. Love flipped to suspicion. She sank to the floor. Envelope in hand. The whole house felt like a stranger. Even the walls, even the air. She thought of her wedding vows. The look on her father's face when he gave her away. The weight of choosing to believe someone louder than her own instincts. She thought of the bruises. The ones that faded. The ones that hadn't. She reached for the photo, tore it once, then again. Then again until it was nothing but scraps in her lap. She put the passport back, put the envelope back, and slipped the plane ticket into the pages of a children's book on the shelf, hidden, waiting, a silent setup. Later, when her son came home, she smiled again. "Did Daddy call you?" he asked. She shook her head, but she picked up the phone. Left him a voicemail. Calm, soft. "Got your message. Hope it all works out. We'll be here when you get home." Then she deleted it. Not from her phone. From the cloud. From everywhere. If he vanished, she wanted it to feel like the wind had done it. Not her. Call to action. If you've ever been gaslit and left to survive alone, follow. You're not alone. The house dimmed early that night. She tucked her son in, then stood at the window as streetlights flickered on. Outside, the wind carried something faint. Maybe leaves. Maybe ash. And in the drawer, behind the closed wood and metal lock, the locket sat alone now, its chain severed clean in two. Strangers see what family refuses to. She felt him before she saw him. Second bench from the back. Navy suit, no tie, black notebook resting flat on his knee. He hadn't been there the day before. Or if he had, he hadn't watched her this directly. Today his eyes didn't roam. They locked, not rudely, not leering, but steady, like he wasn't here to judge her. Like he already had. Anna looked away. The courtroom ticked with little sound shoes. On linoleum, papers passed, a cough that echoed too long. She kept her gaze on the judge, though none of the words reached her. She could feel her son's backpack still damp in her lap, forgotten juice box leaking into the corner seam. She didn't shift it. She didn't move. Her skin remembered bruises. Her memory had blurred. Her wedding ring was gone today, but her fingers still bore the indent. Muscle memory. Habit pretending to be hope. Then she heard the man clear his throat once. Soft in the folder, landed beside her on the bench without a word. He didn't lean in. He didn't explain. She glanced down. No name on it, no label. Just thick brown paper, worn at the corners. The kind of folder that had lived too long in shadows. She didn't open it yet. Instead, she turned just enough to look at him directly. Up close, he looked tired. The kind of tired that comes from carrying things too long in silence. His hair was slicked back, but strands had escaped. His nails were clean. His left cuff had a stained coffee or blood. She couldn't tell. She didn't ask. "You don't know me," he said quietly, but he knew her name. He'd whispered it when he first sat down. Just once. Soft, like a prayer, or a warning. "Who sent you?" she asked. The ghost of a smile touched his mouth. "No one sends anyone anymore. They just survive their way into people's lives." She looked down at the folder, then opened it. But the first thing wasn't a document. It was a photo she hadn't seen in 20 years, her mother. In a hospital bed, not from when she died. From before, alive, holding something in her lap, a baby wrapped in a yellow blanket. Anna, her eyes wide, mouth already solemn. She hadn't seen that photo in decades. Maybe ever. Next came the papers, emails, bank transfers. A receipt for a motel near the state line. The names weren't hers, but they were familiar. Her husband's aliases, accounts she didn't know existed. Messages he'd sent coded, cold, package delivered. She doesn't suspect. The sister's out of the picture. She swallowed. Her mouth felt like sand, then the card. A lawyer's card, worn at the edges. She knew the firm. Had once passed it on a walk with her son. Had once dreamed of walking in and asking questions she was too afraid to hear answered. It was signed in blue ink. A name she hadn't spoken aloud in months. Eva. Her sister's handwriting hadn't changed. She flipped the card. One line scrawled across the back. "He lied to both of us. Call him if I don't make it." Her throat closed. She looked at the man beside her. Why now? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled something from his inside coat pocket. A napkin, folded, yellowed, a lipstick print on it, red, smudged out the same napkin he'd given her in court 2 days ago. He used to leave those, he said, after arguments, as apologies. When your mother cleaned the office, she saved them. Sighed forgiveness shouldn't be disposable. Her chest went still. My mother worked for him? She asked, voice barely forming. He nodded. In silence. For years, until one day she didn't show up. He didn't ask why, narrator aside, but Anna never told anyone about her mother. Not what mattered. Her mother had been small, soft-spoken, but had the sharpest eyes. She could see through people like glass. Her favorite color was lavender. She used to hum when she cleaned, like silence made her uneasy. Anna had inherited her silence anyway. The man in the back row looked down at his hands. I was 16. He said, she called me from a payphone and said if anything happened, to find you. Why me? Because you were kind to her. Even when he wasn't. That ache again. She felt the photo in her lap tremble, though her hands were still. Symbolic object. She reached into the folder again. A list. Names. Dates. Payments. Final signature, her husband's. It was the agreement that ended her mother's pension. 2 weeks before her diagnosis. Echo motif. I thought he just forgot, she whispered. She said not to be mad. The man blinked hard. Once, twice. She said forgiving him would keep you safe. And did it? He didn't answer. Narrator aside. Sometimes silence is an admission, louder than guilt. She stared at the folder like it could answer everything. Her fingers tightened on the lawyer's card. She thought of Eva, the motel, the passport, the voicemail. She thought of the little yellow blanket, the photo, the napkin. She thought of her son, who had asked her last night why nobody ever tells the truth all at once. She pressed the folder shut and passed it back. No, he said. It's yours now. I don't want revenge. It's not revenge. He said quietly, it's the truth. That's what your mother wanted for you. Emotional reversal. She used to want love. Now, she just wanted the truth. Clean. Undeniable. Even if it bled. She stood. He stood too. The judge was calling for recess. But the courtroom faded. It was just her and the folder. Him and the weight of old promises. Your name? She asked. He hesitated. Then, Daniel. He waited, as if that might mean something to her. It didn't. But the way he said it, like a confession he'd waited years to give, told her it meant something to him. He handed her a second card. No name on it, just a number. And one word in block letters, truth. If you ever want more, he said. And then he left. No backward glance. No explanation. Call to action. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. She stood alone. In the echo of his exit, her fingers traced the edge of the folder. Then she opened her purse. Slipped the lawyer's card between 2 torn receipts. One from a grocery store. One from the gas station where her car died last winter. She'd kept them both, not knowing why. Now she did. Every scrap tells a story. She turned back toward the bench, toward where Daniel had been, and found the napkin still there. Unfolded. Lipstick faded. But beneath it, scrawled in ink she hadn't seen before, I owe your mother everything. Tell her I remember. She stared at the napkin, but her mother had been gone for 7 years. Some lies are too heavy for silence. She hadn't planned to speak. Anna had come to court that morning in the same black coat she'd worn to her mother's funeral. Not for mourning, but for armor. The lining was frayed at the wrists. A torn receipt had fallen from the inner pocket when she sat down. Coffee and aspirin, dated the morning after her sister disappeared. She left it on the floor. Across the room, her husband sat straight-backed, jaw set like stone. His new lawyer, slick young sweat haloing through his shirt, kept checking his watch. The judge was delayed. The room buzzed with paper and throat clears. Anna didn't move. Then the folder slid toward the clerk, not hers. The man from the back row had returned. Same quiet walk, same unbothered calm. But this time, he didn't sit beside her. He sat alone. Close enough to watch. Far enough not to touch. The folder hit the table like it had weight. No one wanted to lift. Bank statements, flight logs, security footage. But it wasn't until the tapes came out that everything began to buckle. 12 tapes, labeled by date. Her husband's voice. Clear, crisp. You clean this up, or I will. If she finds out, it's on you. She's not smart enough to figure this out. But Eva needs to go. Each line like a match dragged across memory. The court murmured. Her husband's fingers twitched. His lawyer rose, stammering. Objection. Your Honor, we weren't informed of these. This is inadmissible. This was illegally obtained. The judge waved him down, cold, flat. This is an evidentiary hearing, not a sanctuary. Anna watched her husband's face. He didn't flinch. He smiled, narrator aside. But behind that smile, something cracked. The tapes played on. A recording from their son's birthday, his voice, soft and pleading. Don't yell, Daddy, please. The room went still. A woman in the third row covered her mouth. Anna's hands found the edge of the bench. Gripped. White knuckled. Then the 11th tape stopped. And the clerk said, There's supposed to be 12. A silence followed, heavy as floodwater. They searched the files, the folders. The USB, nothing. 12 are listed, the clerk confirmed. One's missing. The stranger in the back row didn't rise, didn't speak. But he tilted his head, ever so slightly, toward her. Anna understood. The 12th tape had never made it here. But the 12th tape didn't just vanish, it had been erased. She stood, unscripted. UNASKED. The courtroom didn't stir. It froze. She walked to the table, picked up the folder. Then from her purse, an envelope. Unmarked. Already opened. Inside. One still image. A woman in a hallway. Lips caught mid-cry. Her, 6 years younger. In the corner of the frame. A hand. Blurred by motion. Her husband's. She turned it over. Scrawled on the back. This is the tape he destroyed. The judge leaned forward. Destroyed? She nodded. And for the first time, said it out loud. The night he told me I fell down the stairs. Her voice didn't shake. Love turned to suspicion. She placed the photo on the table like it burned her. I wore a cast for 6 weeks, she said. He told everyone I was clumsy. I told everyone he was kind. The silence after was thick, unbreathable. Her husband's lawyer pulled him aside. Whispered frantic, but he didn't panic. He looked at her. Not angry, just afraid. She could see it. Now not fear of punishment, but fear of exposure. He was still trying to calculate what she'd say next, what she knew. Narrator aside. Some men don't fear consequences. They fear being known. She walked back to her seat. Felt every eye follow. In her hand. She still held the ring, not on her finger anymore, but still warm. She slipped it into the folder, closed it. Call to action. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. The judge cleared his throat. Adjourned. Until morning. No decision. Just a room full of echoes. Outside, the rain had started, soft at first, then louder. A slow patter that built like a warning. People shuffled out, except for him. Stranger. She approached. You knew about the 12th tape, she said. He nodded once. It was sent to me, then erased, before I could trace the source. But someone tried to protect him, or protect you. She paused. What was on it? He didn't answer. Instead, he handed her something small. A silver chain, her locket. She hadn't seen it in 2 years. The nurse at the gave it to me, he said. Said you dropped it while you were unconscious. Symbolic object. She opened. It empty, but this time, it felt honest. Why bring it back now? She asked. Because silence keeps wounds fresh. He stood before he turned away. He said, "There was a child's voice on that tape, not yours." Her heart dropped. What did it say? He hesitated. Then it said, "Don't tell Mama." She couldn't speak, couldn't move. She stood alone in the corridor. As the rain hit harder, she looked down at the chain in her hand and finally understood. The 12th tape wasn't missing. It was buried in a voice too small to carry blame. And that someone wore her wedding ring for 6 years. Kids forget words. They never forget the looks. It started with a crayon under the couch. Red, broken at the tip. She hadn't bought that color in months. Anna reached down to pick it up and found the edge of paper folded between the cushions, creased, soft from too much handling. A child's drawing. At first glance, simple. A square house, 4 windows, sun in the corner. But the people. 3 stick figures. 1 small blue shirt, scribbled smile. 1 tall, wide arms, mouth a red jagged line, and 1 tucked inside the closet. She unfolded the rest. Inside the lines of the closet, a second drawing. A woman. Black X's where her eyes should be. Hands on her ears, she gripped the edge of the couch. Her son never saw that. Not the way she remembered it. Not the night she hid in the linen closet after the door slammed so hard the mirror cracked. He'd been asleep, she'd made sure. She remembered whispering to herself to breathe. She remembered pressing her body into the towels like maybe softness could erase fear. She didn't remember being seen. But there she was. In crayon. Narrator aside. Some truths come out in drawings because they're safer than saying them aloud. She found more pages in his backpack. Tucked under math homework, stuck to an old granola bar wrapper. One showed a kitchen stove, sink, a plate on the floor. A man standing over it, arms drawn with thick angry lines. The plate cracked in 2. Red lines spiking from the pieces. Not ketchup, not sauce. She flipped the next page. A bedroom. The small figure curled on the edge of a bed. The taller one standing in the doorway, shouting lines pouring from his mouth. And another one. The same house, drawn again. This time flames. At the windows. But the photo hid something worse. She stared at the child-sized chaos on paper. Her hands trembled. She wasn't sure if it was fury or grief or guilt. She had told herself for years, he doesn't see. He's too young, but kids forget words, not shadows, not volume. Not the way someone flinches before the storm hits. The doorbell rang. She didn't move. It rang again, short, clipped. Her breath stayed shallow. Then a voice, "It's me." Daniel. She opened the door. He stepped in, looked down at the papers in her hand. "You found them," he said, softly. "You left them?" No, he did. Her husband had dropped them off with the school counselor, insisting they were just some silly drawings. Anna's heart thudded against her ribs. "He wanted them gone," Daniel said. "Told the office they weren't important. That kid's draw nonsense." But they weren't nonsense. She laid them out on the kitchen table. A paper trail of silent cries. "He saw too much," she whispered. Daniel nodded. "They always do." She looked out the window. Rain gathering again. Always the rain lately. Like the sky couldn't hold its secrets, either. Another page slipped from the folder. This one different. It showed a woman at a table, alone, crying, a child behind her, watching. From the hallway. No man, just the 2 of them. But in the corner drawn small was something else, a shape she hadn't expected. The locket, her old silver locket, the one she thought was lost, drawn perfectly. Even the little clasp that had always stuck. She picked up the picture, traced it. Her son shouldn't remember it. She hadn't worn it since the hospital. She lost it that night, the night she told the nurses she fell, and they didn't believe her. The night Daniel had waited in the hallway, not yet part of her story. How did he draw this? Daniel stepped forward, held out something wrapped. In a napkin. It was the locket. Unsnapped, empty, but still shining faintly. He found it in the garden, Daniel said. Buried under the birch tree. Said he wanted to give it back to you but didn't know how. She pressed it into her palm, the weight of memory, shaped in metal. Narrator aside. The child saw more than anyone wanted him to. She turned the drawing over. On the back, her son had written one sentence, uneven and misspelled. Mom was hiding, but I saw her still. Tears slipped down before she felt them fall. She sat. Daniel didn't touch her. Just watched. The kitchen was too quiet. The refrigerator hummed, like it knew what not to say. She thought of all the nights she'd shut his door gently, turned the TV up to cover the shouting. The way her voice had grown small so his could feel big. The way she told herself love meant patience, meant waiting for change. The way she told herself he was too young to carry this, but he had. In colors. On paper, crayon as confession. She looked at Daniel. Can I submit these? His answer came slow. If you do, the case shifts. It's not just you anymore. It's him, his safety. She knew. And still she nodded. Because silence hadn't protected him. Love flipped to rage. She gathered the pages, slid them into a folder, but paused on the last. The flames, and there above the window, a Kika figure she hadn't noticed before. A woman, arms outstretched. Face calm. As if the fire didn't scare her. As if she'd been waiting for it. Call to action. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. Daniel placed his hand over the drawing. There's strength in what he made, he said. He gave you truth without asking for anything back. Anna stood. She walked to the drawer, pulled out a USB, plugged it into her laptop. The screen lit up with a folder labeled Song. She clicked it open. Inside, scans. All the drawings. She hadn't put them there. Neither had her son. She turned slowly toward Daniel. He looked at her and said, without hesitation, I did. In case something happened. But how did you? He didn't answer, just nodded toward the window. Rain falling in straight lines, the world rinsing itself clean. She turned back to the table, pressed the locket closed. And just before she shut the folder, she saw it again. That final drawing, the house, the flames, the woman standing still, and beside her a small figure, holding her hand. Some drawers stay locked for survival, others for revenge. The key wasn't hidden. It was exactly where he left it, taped under the false bottom of the kitchen junk drawer, between expired batteries and a curling takeout menu. Anna had touched it 100 times over the years, always pretending not to see it. But today, she peeled it free. No hesitation. Her fingers didn't shake. The house was too quiet. Rain traced the windows again, steady and soft. Her son was at school. Daniel hadn't come by. The only witness to what she was about to do was the kettle, still warm from her untouched tea. She crossed the hall and opened the third drawer of the console cabinet. The lock clicked like a breath being let go. Inside dust, folded linen, and beneath it all a cloth-wrapped bundle. She pulled it out and laid it on the floor, careful, like it might bite. Like it should. Under the cloth, a notebook. Brown leather, frayed corners. A pressed flower tucked into the front, dried to almost nothing. Her mother's journal. Next to it, a thin envelope, official paper, sealed in plastic. Birth records, she saw. Financial transfers. A checkbook with pages torn out. And beneath it all, a black flash drive, smooth, cold. Her initials scratched into the plastic, but she'd never owned it. She opened the journal first. Her mother's handwriting was tight, slanted, aching with effort. Notes from after her diagnosis. Paragraphs cut short by fatigue, but one entry was circled. July 18th. He came again. Told me it wasn't personal. Said she'd thank him someday. I didn't speak. I just prayed. If you find this, Anna, trust what you already know. He's afraid of what you'll remember. She didn't blink. She reached for the drive, plugged it into her laptop. The folder opened instantly. One file. Audio _ 07-18.mp3. She clicked play. Static, then a breath, then his voice calm, clear. I don't know why I'm recording this. Maybe guilt, maybe leverage, maybe just to hear it out loud. A pause. Then, her mother said I was poison. I didn't argue. She said if I loved Anna, I'd leave. So I didn't. Anna froze. I stayed. Even after the first time I lost it. Even after she stopped looking me in the eyes. He laughed short. Bitter. She used to hum in the kitchen. Her mother. Same damn tune every morning. Drove me crazy. But the day she stopped humming, that was worse. Narrator aside, but the humming wasn't what he remembered. It was who stopped him from silencing it. I told her I'd take care of everything. I didn't tell her how. Static again. A chair scraped. She wouldn't cash the check, so I made it easy. She was going to lose the house anyway. I just hurried it along. Anna stared at the screen. He had always told her the foreclosure was bad luck. That her mother had too much pride to ask for help. That she pushed everyone away. Even her daughters. I thought if she was gone, maybe Anna would need me more. Silence, then barely audible. I didn't push her. The audio ended. She didn't move, didn't breathe. Narrator aside. But the photo hid something worse. She opened the envelope with the birth records. Her own name. Her sister's, and a third, Daniel Ross. The father's name Field, blank. Anna's hands shook now. She flipped to the last page of the journal. A torn photo was tucked inside. Her mother, younger, holding a baby. Not Anna, a boy. The edges had been cut, but she knew the smile. Knew the tilt of the child's head. Daniel. Her voice caught in her throat. He knew. Not from research. From memory. He hadn't said anything because he didn't have to. She looked again. At the drive, the initials weren't hers. They were her mother's. MVM Voss. The final thing inside the drawer. A piece of paper folded until the edges curled. She opened it slowly. A recipe. Her mother's lavender shortbread. The one she never wrote down. The one she only made when someone in the house was breaking. The ink blurred in places. As if someone had cried on it. She stood, walked to the kitchen, opened the cupboard. Found the old tin where the cookies used to cool. The inside was empty. But not clean. A single crumb rested at the bottom. Hard and sweet, symbolic object. She pressed her palm to the tin and whispered, I'm sorry. Love became suspicion. Then became something sharper. She printed the bank documents, transferred the audio file. And placed the flash drive into a new envelope. Call to action. If justice still matters. You'll want the next page. Then she wrote a note. To the Van Court. To herself. To her mother. She sealed it without rereading. She walked to the console drawer one last time and placed the journal back. Left it unlocked. Let it breathe. And as she closed, the laptop screen blinked. A second file appeared. Audio _ 07-19.mp3. She clicked it with trembling fingers, and her husband's voice returned, softer now, hollow. I went back to the house that night. She was already asleep, her mother. I watched her for a while. She looked peaceful, like she knew. A swallow. I didn't mean for it to happen. The audio crackled, then she fell. I didn't stop her. A pause. I didn't try. And then nothing. Blood doesn't make you safe. Secrets don't make you family. The air in her sister's foyer smelled like oranges. Like nothing had happened. Like no one had been buried beneath years of silence and soft betrayals. Anna stood with her coat still on, one hand tight around the strap of her bag. The other clutched the envelope. Not a letter. Evidence. Eva opened the door wider. Not surprised, not smiling. She'd aged better than Anna, but her eyes still did that thing darted left when she lied. A nervous tic from childhood. Their mother used to say, "Look people in the eyes or they'll see right through you." Anna stepped inside. The walls were still the same pale blue. The mirror still crooked in the hallway. The rug still curling at the corner. Time moved here, but only when watched. Ava's voice came quiet. "You want tea? I want the truth." Ava didn't blink, just nodded toward the kitchen. "Then you should sit." Anna followed, past the photos she wasn't in, past the silence pressed into the drywall. The kettle hissed in the background like it already knew what this would become. Eva poured. Jasmine, 2 cups. She placed Anna's in front of her, even though she hadn't said yes. Still trying to mother her in that older sister way, like sweetness could erase years. Anna placed the envelope on the table. Didn't open it. "You knew," she said. Ava sat. Her eyes didn't dart this time. "You always knew." Narrator aside, but the photo hid something worse. "I didn't know how much," Ava said. "Or maybe I did and chose not to." Anna opened the envelope and slid out a photo. Her husband, her sister. A parking lot. Too close. Too late at night. "I found this in his drawer." Ava didn't look. Instead, she picked up her tea and said, "That was a mistake." "You mean the photo or the affair?" Silence. "The kind that hurt. He said it was only once," Ava whispered. Anna laughed, short, hollow. "He told me it was you who came onto him." A flicker of something in Ava's face. "Not shock, regret. He said you'd always envied what we had," Anna added. "He said that?" Ava's voice cracked. "He said you never outgrew high school. That you only came around when you wanted something." Ava stood then, walked to the sink, turned on the water but didn't use it. Anna watched her sister's back, the way her shoulders rose and held. "You're not the only one he hurt," Ava said finally. "You just lasted longer." Anna took a sip of tea. "It burned. You never warned me." Eva faced her now. "You wouldn't have listened." "I would have," Anna said, softer now. "I was waiting for someone to give me permission to leave." "You never needed permission," Ava said. But Anna had, and no one had offered it. Narrator aside, some sisters carry your secrets. Others bury them. Anna pulled out the second paper. Her mother's journal page. The one circled in red. She knew, she said. Eva walked over slowly, looked down. "I read that after the funeral," she said. "I wanted to show you, I did. But what?" "She wrote that entry for you, not for me." Anna blinked hard. "She said to trust what I already knew." She whispered, "I thought you'd hate me if you knew what I let happen. That." I stayed quiet. Anna folded the journal page again, gently, like it still had warmth. "You're the lawyer's card," she said. Eva froze, and the folder the man brought. "He said it was from you." "I hired him before I disappeared," Eva said, "when I thought I might report him. But you didn't." "No, I left instead." "Why?" "Because if I stayed, he would have ruined me." She said it like a confession, not an excuse. Anna saw it then. The fear behind Ava's stubbornness. The way her silence had never been protection. It had been survival. Just not Anna's. She reached into her purse again. "Pulled out the USB, he confessed." She said, "I have the recordings." Eva nodded once. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to testify." Eva didn't speak, but her face tightened. Anna stared. "You're not going to stop me?" "I'm not," Eva said. "But they will, they?" "You know who. The ones who still think shame is worse than truth." Anna remembered her uncle's funeral. How her aunt wouldn't let her cry too loud. "We grieve with dignity in this family," she'd said. Anna had been 8. She learned fast. "Do they know?" "They all know," Eva said. "They've always known." Anna stood. "And they never said a word, because it would ruin the name." Anna looked down at the tea. Steam gone now, surface flat. Tasteless, she walked back toward the door. Anna, Eva called after her. If you do this, you'll lose them. Anna didn't turn. What did I ever have to lose? Eva hesitated. Then, barely above a whisper. Me. Anna paused at the door. The locket in her pocket felt cold. She hadn't worn it since the recording, but her son had drawn it. Remembered it, buried it. Found it again. Symbolic object. She pulled it out and placed it on the table. You already lost me, she said. The night you left and didn't take me with you. Call to action. If you've ever protected someone who didn't deserve it, follow. This part will gut you. Anna stepped outside. The oranges still clung to the air, but they tasted bitter now. She walked past the car, down the street. No destination. Just movement. As she reached the end of the block, her phone buzzed. A message from her cousin. Heard what you're doing. Don't. It won't help. It'll only break us more. And beneath it a photo. Her family, all of them, taken last year. Her husband in the center. Smiling. Surrounded. Supported. She stared at the screen. Then slowly, silently, deleted the photo. The truth doesn't need to scream. It just needs a mic. Anna's heels clicked too loudly on the marble as she entered the courtroom. Every sound echoed. She wished she'd worn something softer, something that didn't announce her like a warning shot. But maybe that was the point. She wasn't hiding anymore. She took her seat, hands folded, wrists stiff. She didn't look at him yet, not her ex-husband, not the man who used to warm her feet under blankets, who now sat 3 rows over, flanked by a team of suits who wouldn't meet her eyes. His tie was red, always red. It had once been her favorite. Now it looked like a dare. Daniel sat quietly behind her, his presence steady, as always. But today, before anything began, he leaned in and whispered. He lied under oath last week. I have the transcripts. She didn't nod. Just breathed. The judge entered. The room rose and fell in practiced rhythm. Order called. Files rustled. The clerk began to read aloud the docket, but Anna barely heard it. Her heart had a louder tempo, narrator aside. But the microphone wasn't the only thing recording in the room today. The stranger was no longer a stranger. He introduced himself to the court as Daniel Ross, former counsel to Margaret Voss, Anna's mother. A few heads turned. A man in the gallery leaned forward. She left me with a request, Daniel said. To protect what she couldn't. And today, that means giving her daughter the floor. He stepped back. Anna stood. She walked to the witness box. Every step felt like walking through fog that remembered. Pain. She took the oath. Sat. The judge asked her to begin. Her fingers brushed the edge of her blouse, where her necklace used to rest. The locket was back in her bag. She wanted to wear it today. Couldn't. Not without shaking. She pulled the printed confession from her folder and placed it on the table. I'm here to read a statement, she said. Her voice was low, calm, not loud. Not angry. Just true. The paper shook a little as she lifted it. It's a recording, she said. My ex-husband's voice, from 2 years ago. Objection. Foundation? His lawyer barked. Daniel rose. It's verified, time-stamped, chain of custody filed last night. The judge gestured to proceed. Anna cleared her throat. Then she read. I thought if her mother was gone, Anna would need me more. I didn't push her, but I didn't stop her. She fell. I didn't try. A gasp somewhere behind her. A woman's. Hand flew to her mouth. Her husband didn't flinch, but his fingers tapped against his thigh, once, twice, too fast. Echo motif. She continued. The rest of the transcript was worse. I told Eva to disappear, paid her to leave town. Told her it would be easier for Anna to hate her than to know the truth. Anna swallowed, then looked up. I read this the night I found it. Then I listened, 4 times. She looked at him now. Her voice didn't crack. You always said I imagined things. That I overreacted, that no one else saw it like I did. But the tape doesn't lie. Narrator aside. But the photo hid something worse. She held up a second page. Her mother's journal. Her handwriting. She wrote this after he threatened her. Objection. Alleged, his lawyer hissed. There's no, the judge waved him off. Overruled. Let her finish. Anna read it. Every word. Every whisper. Her mother never got to say aloud. By the time she reached the last line, he said she'd thank him someday. I prayed she wouldn't. The courtroom had gone utterly still. Then came the cross. His lawyer tried to rattle her. Isn't it true you stayed married to him for 6 years? Yes. And you never reported any abuse? No. Why not? Anna met his eyes. Because I was afraid. Of him. Of being alone. Of being called dramatic. And now? Now I'm not. He shifted in his seat. But it wasn't enough to shake her. She stepped down from the box. Daniel stood and passed her a file. Submit it into evidence, he told the clerk. Recordings, journals, photos, transcripts. The gavel hit once. The judge called recess. The courtroom burst like a pressure valve, people whispering, eyes turning. A cousin she hadn't seen in years looking. Stunned. She felt none of it. She walked to her son at the back of the room. He had his sketchpad with him, crayon streaked. Bent from use, his drawings always helped him focus. Always helped him stay small. When the world felt too loud, he looked up at her. Mom, he said. She knelt down. You sounded like a hero. She pressed her forehead to his. I'm just telling the truth, she whispered. But no one else did, he said. Only you. She hugged him, tighter than before. Tighter than memory. Call to action. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. As they walked out of the courtroom, she glanced once over her shoulder. Her ex-husband was still seated, still staring, but his hands were no longer tapping. They were clenched. And for the first time in years, he looked small. What you bury never stays dead. He walked in with a fresh haircut and a smug smile, as if the last 8 days hadn't torn him down layer by layer. As if the recordings, the drawings, the testimony from her trembling voice hadn't bruised him where it mattered. He wore his favorite watch. The one she bought for their 3rd anniversary. The one he hadn't bothered to take off, even after the divorce filings were public. Anna didn't look at him when he sat down across the aisle. She kept her fingers on the paper in front of her, pressing the corners flat as if a single crease would break her resolve. Her son wasn't in the room today. That was a decision. No child should have to witness a parent forget how to be human. The judge entered. No small talk. No wasted time. There was weight in the room today, and everyone felt it. And then the surprise. I'd like to file a countersuit, her husband's lawyer said, voice crisp with performance. Defamation, perjury, mental endangerment of a minor. Gasps. One woman in the back row whispered a curse. Another crossed herself. Anna didn't move. The lawyer continued, hands folded like a priest delivering confession. The defendant. He nodded toward Anna, has fabricated stories, presented unverified recordings, and manipulated evidence to gain public sympathy. Our client is a victim of slander. Narrator aside, but the lie wasn't the twist. It was the timing. Judge raised an eyebrow. You're countersuing now? She left me no choice, her ex-husband said, finally speaking. She's poisoning my son against me. Anna looked up, and for the first time that morning, met his eyes. He looked tired beneath the grooming. His collar tugged too tight. But the cruelty was still intact. He had nightmares because of what she told him, he continued. She's rewriting history to make herself the victim. The judge glanced at Anna. Would you like to respond? No, she said quietly. I'd like to let someone else speak. She opened her bag. Removed a sealed envelope. Passed it to Daniel, who handed it to the clerk. A new tape, Daniel said. Delivered last night. Unsolicited. The judge nodded. Play it. The room dimmed as the monitor warmed. Static. Then a voice, soft, female. I'm his assistant. Or was. Anna closed her eyes. I can't keep lying for him. Not after what he said about her son. Gasps again, louder. I typed every fake receipt. I shredded the letters from Eva. I deleted the original draft of the printup. I helped him. Move the tapes off the main server. I know what I did. Her voice broke. But the thing I can't live with is what he said about the child. He said if the boy got too loud, he'd handle it like he handled her mother. Those were his words. The room froze. Then, quietly from the tape, he said no one would believe a woman who cried wolf too late. Narrator aside. But the photo hid something worse. The video cut off. No one moved. Anna opened her eyes. Her husband leaned forward, whispering furiously to his lawyer, whose face had gone chalk white. The judge spoke. Would the prosecution like to amend their countersuit? Silence. Then, barely above breath, No, Your Honor. Motion dismissed, the judge said. Court will recess for 10 minutes. And Mr. Voss, her ex flinched at the full name. You are advised to remain seated. Security, if you will. 2 guards approached. One stood behind him, not touching, not threatening, just present, symbolic object. Anna pulled the folded napkin from her folder. The one with the lipstick stain and handwriting now faded. Tell her I remember. She placed it on the bench beside her. He looked at her. And in that moment, the pride dropped. Not rage. Not violence. Just a man unraveling. The guilt clung to his neck like sweat. She saw it finally. The moment fear outweighed denial. He never thought anyone would outmaneuver him. Not her. And especially not the assistant. But betrayal, it turns out, is contagious. Love became suspicion. Suspicion became truth. Truth became justice. Call to action. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. She rose, walked out slowly. She didn't rush, didn't cry. The door closed behind her. And her ex-husband, for the first time in their long tangled story, didn't leave the courtroom free. Home is just a haunted place until you reclaim it. She parked across the street instead of the driveway. The gravel looked different now, more like teeth than stone. A child's bike sat tipped on its side in the neighbor's yard. A wind chime twitched on a rusted hook. Everything looked ordinary, which somehow made it crueler. The house hadn't changed. Not on the outside. The shutters still crooked on the left side. The porch still sagged a little underweight. She stood at the bottom step for a full 30 seconds before going up, hand resting on the rail like a question. She unlocked the door. The silence inside didn't greet her. It waited. Her shoes landed too loud on the floorboards. The hallway stretched long and too clean, like someone had tried to erase her. But ghosts never wipe clean. They linger in corners, in smells, in sounds too faint to name. She dropped her keys into the ceramic dish by the door. It cracked. The mirror in the hallway was still broken. The one he'd punched the night she told him no. A spiderweb of silver. Cracks across his reflection. None across hers. She almost smiled, narrator aside. But the photo hid something worse. Her suitcase rolled uneven on the rug, catching at the edge where he used to trip and curse. She didn't avoid it this time. Let it bump, let it thud. The walls didn't flinch. In the bedroom, everything was where she left it. But her jewelry box was open. The locket was gone. The one her son had drawn. The one she'd buried and found again. The one she'd promised herself she'd never wear until she was no longer afraid. She touched her collarbone where it used to rest. And then she saw it sitting on the nightstand. Open. Empty. She left it that way. She started to pack, drawer by drawer, shirt by shirt. What didn't fit in the suitcase, she didn't take. She folded carefully, not because she cared, but because her hands needed something to do. She paused at the closet. His suits still hung like sentries. Her dresses pushed to the back, But one box waited on the top shelf, her mother's. The one he told her was just full of junk. She pulled it down. Inside, a scarlet lipstick dried out. A torn receipt. A strand of pearls, still stained faintly. Pink from the night they fought at the gala. Symbolic object. She held the receipt. Coffee, 2 teas. A motel room. Dated 1 week before the bruises started showing up in photographs. She folded it once. Slipped it into her pocket. Downstairs, the drawer that had been locked for years now hung open. She walked to it slowly, as if it might close. On its own, empty, completely only. A thumbprint on the inside of the drawer wall. Small, grease-smudged. He'd come back, taken whatever was in there. Erased her mother again. She ran her fingers along the inner edge. No papers. No folder. No final truths. Just one thing. The smallest piece of the original drawer lining peeling back to reveal the wood. Underneath, a single word carved into the grain. Stay. Narrator aside, but it wasn't meant for her. That word had always been for control. She closed the drawer softly, walked to the kitchen, opened the fridge. It was nearly empty. Milk expired, mustard half full. No signs of life. Or maybe just signs of a man pretending he'd already moved on. The table had a mug on it. Lipstick on the rim, not her shade. She didn't flinch. Instead, she sat and wrote. A single sheet. No envelope. She didn't write dear anything. Just the words, plain. Quiet. I forgive me. She placed it where the mug sat, pushed the cup gently aside. The lipstick smeared into a soft crescent. She walked to the front door, stopped only once. At the mirror, her reflection still uncracked. It shattered into a dozen slices. She reached into her pocket, pulled out the scarlet lipstick, the same shade as the crescent on the cup. Not hers, not her mother's, just another woman trying not to disappear. She dragged it across the mirror 1 line. Then 2. Then 3. A jagged X over his side. Echo motif. Call to action. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. She opened the door, stepped into the light, didn't look back. She walked toward her car, and behind her, in the mirror she left. Untouched, he'd see it every day. The cracks, the X. And nothing of himself that made sense anymore. Peace looks like boring papers and deep breaths. The ink was still wet when she signed. 3 pages. 6 signatures. A notarized stamp that shook just a little when pressed down. The judge didn't smile. He wasn't cold either. Just practiced, efficient, like he'd done this 100 times before and would do it 100 times more. But this one mattered, because it was hers. Custody. Final. Full. Anna exhaled, quietly, not relief. Just stillness. Like the air had finally stopped holding its breath around her. Her son sat in the hallway with a coloring book and a juice box. Someone from Daniel's office sat beside him, chatting about superheroes like nothing inside this room could touch him. Anna had chosen that he wouldn't have to witness this part, but she knew he'd feel it. Kids always feel the ending, even when they don't see it. Daniel waited beside the door, hands folded in front of him. He didn't say anything, but his eyes softened when she looked up. "Is that it?" she asked, voice steady now. "Almost," he said, then pulled a small envelope from his jacket pocket, unmarked, uncreased. She didn't take it right away. He held it out. "From your mother. Left with me the day she changed her will. Said you'd need it after the storm, not during." She took it. Her fingers knew the weight. Her mother's letters had always felt heavier than their size. "I didn't." "No, she wrote me anything," Anna said. "She didn't want you to." Narrator aside, but the photo hid something worse. Daniel stepped aside, gave her the room, left the door slightly open. She sat alone. The envelope smelled faintly like old lavender and paper pressed too long. She unfolded the letter slowly, as if the ink might crack. It wasn't long. 3 Paragraphs. No apologies. Just this. You come from women who survived things they didn't speak of. I don't want that for you. Speak. Roar, if you must. But never silence yourself to be loved. That's not love. That's erasure. Anna's hands trembled. She continued reading. I didn't leave him. I should have. But I watched you watching. Me stay, and I see now what I taught you. That's on me. But you broke it. You left. You did what I couldn't. The last line wasn't written like advice. It was written like blessing. I wasn't free, but I birthed someone who will be. Anna folded the paper slowly, tucked it back in the envelope like sealing a prayer. She stared at the table where the custody order sat. The judge's seal gleamed under the fluorescent lights. Her name next to the word primary. And then just beside the stack of legal documents, she noticed a torn receipt. Symbolic object. Coffee and pie. 2 forks. She turned it over. The handwriting was faint, but hers. A note she'd written years ago, scribbled in a diner before court one morning during the custody mediation that went nowhere. Don't give up on the quiet days. They matter too. She didn't remember writing it, but her mother must have found it, kept it. Echo motif. She placed it beside the envelope and stared at both like they might talk to each other. The door creaked open. Her son peeked in. Can we go home now? She smiled, stood. Yes, we can. As they walked down the courthouse steps, she noticed the wind had picked up. Just a breeze, but enough to move her hair, enough to make her look skyward. Daniel followed behind, quiet, respectful. He didn't press her, didn't ask what the letter said, but she turned to him. She knew more than she ever said. He nodded. She always did. They reached the car. Her son climbed into the back and pulled the seatbelt across his chest like muscle memory. She took the front passenger seat, let her hands rest in her lap for a moment before speaking again. She didn't want forgiveness, Anna said. Just for me to live. Daniel didn't respond. But the silence wasn't empty. It held something. Respect. Grief. Gratitude. Call to action. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. They drove for a while with the windows cracked open. The breeze threaded through her fingers when she reached out of the passenger side. She closed her eyes for a moment and felt it. Not freedom. Not yet, but the absence of the thing that used to press down on her chest when she tried to rest. When they pulled into the driveway of her new place, her son ran to the door, laughing at something only he understood. She watched him go, then opened her purse and placed the letter on the dashboard. Not to hide it. To let it breathe. She stepped out of the car slowly, taking in the quiet street, the soft light, the sound of something beginning instead of ending. Inside, on the windowsill above the sink, the old locket waited. She hadn't worn it since the trial, but it was open now. And this time it held a photo, not of her mother, not of her husband, but of her and her son, backlit, laughing, unshattered, healing. Doesn't whisper. It rewrites. The nameplate on the judge's desk glinted under the courthouse light. Anna kept her eyes fixed on it, as if reading someone else's name might steady her own. Her palms rested flat against the edge of the table, steady, but not still. Her son sat beside her, swinging his feet slowly, silently mouthing the new name he'd chosen, testing it. Like a secret he was ready to say out loud. Across the aisle, 2 empty chairs. Her ex hadn't shown. Not required for this hearing. But she could still feel the echo of his presence. Years of silence could linger louder than shouting. The judge looked up. This is a simple matter, he said. But not a small one. Anna nodded. The papers were already filled out, her signature carefully printed on every line. She'd practiced it the night before. The old name, her first name. A name that belonged to her before anyone taught her to answer to someone else's. The judge turned the page. Anna Margaret Voss, you are requesting legal restoration of your birth name. Yes, he tapped the file. And your son has elected to change his name as well? She looked to the boy beside her. He straightened. Yes, he said, voice clear. We picked it together. The judge smiled. Not warm, not condescending, just something quiet, approving. And what name did you choose, son? He looked at his mother. She gave him a small nod. He turned back. Veil. Narrator aside. He didn't know it was the Latin word for goodbye. He just liked how it sounded like. Strength. Approved, the judge said. One clean word. One clean gavel, and just like that, she became her own again. On a veil. They stood. As they gathered their things. Daniel stepped forward with a small envelope. Of course he had one. Always the quiet messenger. She took it with a half smile. The envelope wasn't heavy, but it was thick, handwritten, scrawled in blue ink. It came through probate, Daniel said. Your mother left it in a safety deposit box. Nobody knew it existed. Not even me. She didn't open it, not yet. She tucked it into her bag beside the court decree. Outside, the light was soft gray, but not grim. The kind of sky that looked like it might rain but never quite did. Her son reached for her hand without looking. She held it without squeezing. Together, they walked down the steps of the courthouse. Not quickly. Not afraid. Narrator aside. But the photo hid something worse. They passed the parking meter where she used to leave scribbled love notes on his windshield. The notes he stopped responding to. The spot where he once waited with a bouquet of red roses. The only time she ever saw him blush. She walked past it now. Didn't flinch. At the corner, a street musician played a cello. Low, aching, beautiful. The sound curved around her like a memory trying to return. She let it pass. Back home, the apartment smelled like new paint and lemon soap. Her son ran to the kitchen, laughing free in a way she didn't realize she'd taught him to fear. She opened the envelope. One sheet, 3 lines. Names are spells. Choose yours like it's armor. You are not made from what hurt you. You are made from who you become after. Symbolic object. She sat down slowly. The locket lay on the windowsill beside the photograph. Still open. Still holding only 2 faces, hers and her son's, drawn in sunlight. Mouths half open from some forgotten joke. She turned over the court papers. The name Voss was crossed out in black ink. Veil glowed beneath it. She ran her fingers over the word. Soft. Then firm. Echo motif. In the kitchen. Her son spilled juice on the counter and started to clean it up. Before she could even speak. She watched him. This boy who once drew closets and fire and stick figure ghosts. This boy who now chose a name that sounded like wind slicing through silence. Rose walked to the fridge and taped the court decree beside his latest drawing. A tree. 1 trunk. 2 names carved in it. No faces. Just roots. She stood still for a long moment, just breathing, not mourning. Not reliving. Just letting it settle. Call to action. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. Then she took the locket from the sill, snapped it shut. And tucked it into her pocket. Not to forget, but to carry it forward. And this time, no one had to say, I'm here for her. Because she was already here for herself. Time doesn't erase, but it rewrites the script. The envelope came on a Thursday. Thin, yellowed, folded like the sender had been unsure about sending it at all. Her name was still written in his hand, same sharp slope, same overconfident underline. She didn't touch it at first. Just stared at it on the kitchen table while water boiled and rain threatened outside. She hadn't said his name aloud in 3 years. Her son, now 17, taller than her, walked past, earbuds in, backpack half zipped. You okay? He asked. Without looking, she nodded. Just mail, he shrugged. Want me to toss it? No, she said. Not yet. He left for school. The front door closed gently, like it knew not to ask questions. She made tea. Let it steep too long. Still. Didn't touch the envelope. The handwriting hadn't changed. The return address was printed, stamped by the system. Prison Inc. It stared back at her like a dare. She opened it with a butter knife. Inside, one page, double-sided, folded once. She didn't expect it to shake. But it did. Narrator aside. But the photo hid something worse. "Anna," it began. "No, dear. I know. I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. I've thought about writing this for years. I just didn't know what to say that wouldn't sound like a defense." She paused. "Read again. They've got me in trauma counseling." Mandatory. Funny, huh? I'm learning words I should have said back then, like consent and remorse. She blinked. Set the letter down. Sipped the bitter tea. It burned less then. Expected. She kept reading. "I blamed a lot of things. My dad. The war. The way I was raised. But that's the thing, right? At some point, I had a choice, and I made the wrong ones. Over and over. I remember the night you hid in the closet. I heard you crying. I told myself it wasn't fear. I told myself you just needed space. But I knew. Her hands were still, but her chest tightened like a fist closing. I thought if I controlled everything, I'd never lose anything. I didn't know I was the thing being lost. Slowly, day by day. He didn't ask for forgiveness. That surprised her. But then came the line that didn't. You always loved harder than you should have. That was your weakness. I used it." Narrator aside. He didn't say what else he used. But she remembered the bruises, the rewritten arguments, the way the locket went missing just before her first court date. The letter ended simply. "I don't expect a reply. I just needed you to know I'm sorry. For everything I broke that you tried to hold together. I see it now, all of it. I see you." No signature. Just space. She folded the letter. Once. Then again, slid it into the drawer beside the stove, not out of fear, but because she wasn't finished yet. She opened the back door. The wind had picked up. The garden still held her mother's favorite lavender, stubborn even through the season. She struck a match, held the flame to the folded edge, and watched the paper curl into ash. Her son came home later, jacket half unzipped, cheeks red from wind. He saw the empty teacup, the back door cracked open, and the smoke curling up from the rusted tin on the porch. "What was it?" he asked. She didn't lie. "A letter. From him." He nodded slowly. "Did it make you feel better?" She thought for a second, looked down at the last bit of ash, gray against the wind-chapped wood. "No," she said. But it didn't hurt either. He didn't say anything else. He just leaned against the doorframe, quiet. The locket sat on the windowsill, still unopened, still untouched since the day she placed the new photo inside. Symbolic object. She picked it up, ran her thumb over the clasp, didn't open it, didn't need to. Call to action. If justice still matters, you'll want the next page. Inside, dinner simmered. Something slow, something warm. She lit one candle. Not for grief, not for memory. For light. Some letters get delivered, others burn for good reason. Some debts are paid in silence. She saw him before she realized she was looking for him. Same. Navy coat, hands in pockets, silent presence by the coffee cart, in the airport terminal. She'd stopped traveling for work, or almost did until today. Her son, now a law school freshman, boarded his first international flight. She stood behind the glass wall, coffee in hand. He appeared behind her, as if materialized from memory. He didn't say anything, just extended a hand, small card resting on his palm. Not a number, no name, just 3 words, "For your son." And underneath, law school, in neat block letters. Narrator aside, but the years hit a different storm. She stared at the card. Everything inside felt sudden. 10 years of courtroom echoes, locket sketches, the stranger's steady interventions, all collapsing into this quiet exchange. The smell of coffee grounds, the muted bustle. Somehow still too loud. Double quotes. "Thank you," she said. voice soft enough to belong to another life. Her son, unseen behind the glass, waved once and disappeared into the jet bridge. She pocketed the card. Didn't ask questions. You don't ask questions of ghosts. He nodded and turned away. She watched him disappear into the crowd. Slim figure retreating under neon lights and signs in foreign languages. She blinked, rested her head against the cold glass. Felt the echo. Motif of the crumbling mirror, the 3 X's scratched long ago come back, softened by time. Could 10 years be enough to heal a promise no one asked for? She closed her eyes, remembered his laughter the first time he slipped her the napkin lipstick smeared from regret. The promise I remember at the courthouse bench. The steadiness of his watchful silence in the hallways. She pictured him sliding. The USB across the table, the folder, the lawyer's card that saved her from herself. Not saving but honoring. Her son tapped on the glass, pulling her back. Mama? She turned. He was tall now, chin up, shoulders squared. But pain still lingered in his eyes, the same cautious hope she remembered seeing in drawings long ago. Stick figures, fire, closets unlocked. The locket had bounded between their worlds, loss and safeguard. She knelt, smiled, brushed a strand of hair from his forehead. He handed her the boarding pass. Here, he said, voice confident. We're both going somewhere new. She took it. They shared a moment of unspoken understanding, the past intact, the future unwritten. She looked out again. The stranger was gone, but his presence, like a debt quietly paid, lingered against the glass. Echo motif. Call to action. If justice still matters. You'll want the next page. She stood, slipped the card into her jacket, and took her son's hand. Together they walked toward their gate, final line, and she waited. Then she walked away. The closet door creaked as she pushed it open. The smell of mothballs and stale wood hit her like a memory she didn't want to remember. She paused in the threshold, one hand lingering on the tarnished doorknob, fingers tracing the scratches, her claws, her fear, her attempts to disappear. Flashback, she was 7, crouched behind her mother's coats, tiny shoulders pressed into the wall, listening to voices slam and the mirror shatter in the hallway. Her mother's whisper followed. One day we'll leave. That promise hung in the dark until the door opened and her mother's hand found hers. Then they left the closet and never hid again. But the photo hid something worse. The closet never forgot. Now it was 10 years later. Her own son stood in the room, suitcase half packed on the bed. College bound in 2 days. He pulled out a t-shirt, folded it, and glanced at her. Mom, he said, voice still soft from years of careful upbringing. Are you okay? She closed the closet. Locked it. No, she admitted. Not yet. She looked at him. He was taller than her now, shoulders broad, anxious. He pulled a deep breath, too much emotion for his age. I found something, he said, holding up a small crumpled receipt. A restaurant, 2 dinners, 1 wine, same date as the bruises in her old photos. She recognized it instantly, lipstick-stained edge. Not her shade. She swallowed hard. That's Dad's. She had never expected him to find that. Silent setup unfolding in a teenage hand, but he didn't accuse. Just waited. She nodded. Yes. She walked toward the window. The afternoon sun cut through half-drawn curtains, dust motes swirling in golden light. The closet cast a narrow shadow across the floor, splitting the room. Light and dark. Her son set the receipt on the dresser. I wanted to know, he said. Before I leave. She turned, her heart lurching. Could truth break you even a decade later? She sat beside him, pulled out a wooden box, symbolic object from under the bed. Inside, 2 lockets, one hers, one his. The locket she'd never worn since trial. The one he wore now, containing a photo of them laughing on moving day. She handed his to him. Take it. He opened it, touched the picture. She looked back at the closet door. We waited for healing, she said. We closed it, but never, and you need to know, never forget what was inside. He nodded, tears unspilled. The suitcase zipped closed. He turned it upright, emotional reversal. She had thought packing it away meant forgetting. But releasing, it meant remembering and surviving. She stood, walked to the closet again, pulled the key from the shelf, same key his father had hidden years ago. She held it up, weight in her palm. He watched, understanding. She unlocked it, opened it. The coats hung still. Empty hangers. The mirror inside shattered years ago, long since removed. Just bare wood and nail holes. She stepped in. The room felt smaller, but quieter. She closed her eyes. He walked in behind her. Watched. She turned back to him. We're not hiding anymore. He shook off English class jitters. Walked to the mirror she had hung when he was born, a small round piece framed in brass. She'd replaced the broken one. He looked at his reflection, then hers beside him. She nodded once. He closed the closet door. The click echoed finality. They walked out together. Sunlight spilled across their path. Call to action, if healing can. Rewrite the hardest chapters. Maybe you can write your own. She followed him down the hall. He stopped once, turned. Thanks, Mom. She nodded. They went out the front door into the day she'd been waiting for them to see. Final line, and in that moment, the closet didn't haunt anymore. It just held a closed door, exactly where it belonged.